Have you ever felt like you're sprinting through life, chasing one goal after another, only to find that the finish line keeps moving further away? Maybe you told yourself, "I'll finally be happy when I get that promotion, that house, that perfect relationship." But when you got there, the satisfaction faded quickly and a new target appeared. It's exhausting, isn't it? We live in a world that constantly tells us to hustle, grind, and push harder, yet the more we force life, the more it slips through our fingers like trying to hold water in a clenched fist. What if I told you there's another way? A path where peace isn't something you achieve someday, but something you create right now, in this very moment. A way of living where success isn't measured by how much you can control, but by how deeply you can flow with life's natural rhythm. This isn't about giving up on ambition or settling for less. It's about shifting your focus from a relentless obsession with outcomes to the richness of the journey itself. In today's video, we're diving into 3 transformative Stoic lessons that will change how you see your life forever. First, you'll learn how to enjoy the journey too. Stop rushing through the present moment and start finding meaning in the process itself, whether you're at work, with your family, or simply walking down the street. Then, we'll explore the power of cultivating gratitude, a practice that turns ordinary days into extraordinary gifts and protects you from envy and dissatisfaction. Finally, we'll uncover the ultimate key: don't force life. This is about releasing the illusion of control, letting go of the need to bend reality to your will, and discovering how much more life gives you when you stop fighting its flow. These ideas aren't abstract philosophy. They're tools you can use today to ease stress, strengthen relationships, and build resilience in an unpredictable world. Imagine waking up tomorrow with a sense of calm, knowing that even if challenges arise, you have the mindset to navigate them gracefully. Imagine feeling grateful for what you already have instead of constantly comparing yourself to others. Imagine being free from the need to force outcomes, free to move through life with both confidence and ease. So, if you've been tired of living like every day is a battlefield, if you've been yearning for a deeper sense of meaning and joy, stay with me until the very end of this video. What you'll hear today has the power to reshape your entire approach to living. Before we dive in, don't forget to like this video, share it with friends or family who might need a little inspiration, and subscribe to the channel for more life-changing Stoic wisdom. If you'd like to support this work and help us create more free content, consider donating through YouTube's Super Thanks feature. It's a small action that makes a huge difference. Now, take a deep breath, let go of your worries for just a moment, and let's step into a new way of living, one where peace, gratitude, and flow are not distant dreams, but your daily reality. Control promises certainty, but often delivers tension. The tighter we grip, the more life wriggles out of our hands. Anyone who has tried to white-knuckle a relationship, a job interview, a child's behavior, or even a golf swing recognizes this paradox. Force creates friction. Friction creates noise. Noise obscures judgment. Stoicism offers a clean way out of that loop, not by shutting feelings down, but by sharpening attention to what is truly ours, to guide in relaxing the death grip on what isn't. In practical American terms, it's the difference between preparing hard for a meeting and obsessing over whether the client likes you, between training consistently and demanding a race day with perfect weather, between speaking clearly and needing the internet to applaud. The philosophy is simple, but not easy. Direct effort where it changes reality, drop the rest. That move away from control fantasies and toward disciplined influence is where peace starts. At the core is a sober, sorting exercise. Some things are up to us. Values, intentions, choices, the quality of our attention, the standards we hold for our work. Some things are not. Other people's opinions, the weather, market timing, algorithm shifts, the bounce of a ball, the randomness of airline delays. Confusing the two creates chronic anxiety. Imagine a job interview. You can research the company, rehearse stories that showcase judgment under pressure, Arrive early, breathe, listen, answer. That's your side of the net. Whether the hiring committee has an internal candidate, whether the budget gets frozen that afternoon, whether a board member prefers a different profile, none of that yields to your will. Yet most of us leak energy into the second list, refreshing email compulsively, replaying the conversation, trying to telepathically rewrite what's done. Letting go in a Stoic sense means you exit that fantasy and return to what you can still shape. Follow-up clarity, portfolio polish, the next application, your steadiness. This shift is not apathy. Americans often hear acceptance and picture passivity, a shrug, a surrender. Stoic acceptance is closer to athletic poise. A good quarterback doesn't fight the rain. He adjusts his grip, shortens his throws, and keeps his eyes downfield. The emotion is present. Rain is annoying, but it's metabolized into strategy rather than theatrics. In the office, that looks like acknowledging a client's last-minute change without sarcasm, resetting scope in writing, and focusing the team on the piece of the problem that still matters. In parenting, it's recognizing that a teenager's mood is not within your command. Your tone, boundaries, consistency, and availability are. In health, you can't will a perfect lab result. You can honor sleep, nutrition, movement, and doctor visits. The common thread is authority over response, not reality. Why does forcing backfire? Because force narrows perception. When we must get a particular outcome, we stop scanning the full field for alternative routes. Consider a sales rep fixated on closing one marquee account. She pushes calls twice a day, throws discounts, hovers. The prospect feels the pressure and hesitates. Meanwhile, 3 smaller accounts winnable with steady effort go cold. Or think about a creative team obsessing over a viral moment. They speak in hashtags before they've written a clear sentence. The work becomes copycat, derivative, anxious. Virality, like popularity in high school, is allergic to desperation. Focus on craft, clarity, usefulness, things you can actually do, and the outcomes you wanted are more likely, though never guaranteed. This is the sober comfort Stoicism offers. You get a sane way to measure success. Did I do what was mine to do? You stop renting your peace to results. The metaphor of trying to hold water tight in your fist is helpful. Your hand is your effort. The water is the outside world. Clench and the water jets out between your fingers. Cup your hand firm, but not rigid, and you hold more. Everyday life provides countless versions of this. In a tense conversation, the more you try to win, the more the other person armors up. If you listen, reflect back what you heard, state your view plainly without performing, the temperature drops and actual movement becomes possible. In fitness, the more you chase the perfect body in 30 days, the more you ricochet between extremes and injury. If you normalize training 30 to 40 minutes for days a week, for the next 3 years you land where the short-term sprints never take you. In money, the more you day trade headlines, the more you bleed fees and cortisol. If you automate contributions to a diversified plan and go for a walk when cable news screams, you create optionality without drama. Notice that none of this rejects emotion. It reframes it. Anxiety is feedback that you're trying to control the uncontrollable. Anger is feedback that a boundary was crossed or an expectation was naive. Envy is feedback that you admire a trait you haven't cultivated. In that frame, feelings are signals, not dictators. You don't need to crush them or broadcast them. You translate them into action inside your circle of control. Let's say a colleague gets promoted and you feel that hot mix of envy and self-doubt. Forcing would look like politicking, gossip, or a performative project to prove your worth in a week. A Stoic move is quieter. Ask for the rubric, map the gap, build the skills, seek reps, ship work, track progress. You turn comparison into curriculum. Another reason forcing fails is that reality is volatile. The more dependent your piece is on a string of exact conditions, the larger your surface area for pain. An athlete who can only perform when the crowd is supportive, the weather is mild, and the opponent is polite will not perform often. A professional who can only write when the office is silent and the coffee is perfect won't write much. The Stoic response is training for anti-fragility, brief doses of voluntary difficulty that expand your flexibility. Take a cold walk without a podcast, present without slides once in a while. Practice saying, "I don't know yet," and "let me get back to you tomorrow" without flinching. Fly economy and use the extra money for your 401k. Skip the elevator. These micro-stresses are not macho stunts. They're a rehearsal for reality's indifference. When the unforeseen arrives, as it always does, you're familiar with discomfort and can stay useful. Consider commute traffic. There are two drivers at the same jammed exit. Driver A curses, jerks the wheel, cheats into the shoulder, and arrives 3 minutes earlier with a blood pressure spike and 2 new enemies. Driver B uses the time to call a parent, listen to a history podcast, or simply breathe and scan the sky. Both arrive at the same office. One has already spent a chunk of his morning energy budget on rage, the other has not. The difference isn't the traffic, it's the operating system. Similarly, at the airport when a flight is canceled, the forcing move is to argue with the gate agent as if she controls the weather. The Stoic move is to quickly open the airline app, grab the earliest viable connection, then politely confirm at the desk. If that fails, you pivot, book a different route, rent a car, or use the unexpected night to sleep and start fresh. You're not naive you want a plan A. You're also not paralyzed when plan A dies. Relationships magnify the illusion of control. We all know the couple where one partner constantly pushes the other to change, dress like this, laugh like that, choose these friends, prefer these shows, and then wonders why intimacy evaporates. The paradox: being fully yourself invites reciprocity. Trying to mold another person produces rebellion or compliance without respect. A more stoic posture in love is radical clarity about your own values and boundaries, paired with respect for the other's agency. You don't force, you invite and you choose. This is the kind of home I want to run. Phones off at dinner, we speak fairly even when angry, we are generous with apologies, and we keep promises. If this is not the life you want, let's be honest about it. That is not control. That is ownership of your own conduct and an open door for the other to meet you or not. Peace comes from living your values, not from managing someone else's. Workplaces reward this stance over time. Managers who control by surveillance, constant pings, and performative urgency burn teams out. Managers who set a crisp definition of done, remove blockers, and give their people room to work get more real output. As an individual contributor, you have a version of that choice. Drown in slack and posture about busyness, or identify the 1 or 2 high-leverage tasks today, carve 90 minutes of deep focus, and ship. You can't control the company's politics, but you can control the clarity of your updates, the quality of your decisions, and the calm you project under stress. Over months and years, that's the difference between being known as a firefighter who causes fires and a grown-up who quietly prevents them. Social media is engineered to exploit our control addiction. It whispers that you can manage your image into admiration, that if you post at the perfect time, with the perfect audio and the perfect cut, the universe owes you attention. When the numbers don't come, anxiety follows. The Stoic alternative is brutally practical. Post work you believe in at a sustainable cadence, and measure yourself by process metrics you can hit: consistency, clarity, usefulness rather than outcomes you can't. You are allowed to want an audience. You are not allowed to sacrifice your sanity to an algorithm. The artist who keeps making is free. The artist who creates for approval is trapped. Health brings the control illusion into sharp focus. You can influence your risk profile. You cannot command your genome. You can build a routine that makes it easier to eat reasonably at lunch. You cannot erase all cravings. People fail at diet and exercise not because they're weak, but because they try to win with forced 30-day cleanses, all-or-nothing vows, punishing schedules that crumble. Under travel and kids. What works looks almost boring. Standard breakfasts, a default grocery list, a walking habit that survives bad weeks, a gym you actually pass on your drive home, a bedtime alarm that gets you off the couch. Instead of forcing willpower at 9 p.m., you design defaults at 9 a.m. Control becomes architecture rather than adrenaline. Another everyday theater 4. Forcing is conversation. A familiar pattern. You enter a discussion determined to convince, and you listen only for openings to drop your points. The other person senses the pressure, braces, and stops hearing you. A Stoic conversational posture is both more humane and more effective. You aim to understand the other person's map of the world, reflect it back fairly, ask one genuine question that isn't a trap, and then state your view in plain English. You release the need to score the conversion. Ironically, people move more when they feel seen and uncoerced. In practical terms, that might sound like, it makes sense you're cautious about this migration. The last tool burned the team. Here's the risk we run if we wait. And here are 2 mitigations we control. I'd like to pilot with a low-stakes group next month. If it flops, we pull the plug. The habit of negative visualization, quietly contemplating loss, sounds grim, but is a powerful antidote to forcing. When you imagine a plan falling through, a trip being canceled, a phone shattering, a friend moving away, you don't become fatalistic. You become grateful now and flexible later. You send a thank you note this week. You enjoy the walk even if it's cloudy. You back up your files. When disruption hits, you're not shocked into bad choices. You're already halfway to Plan B. Americans practice versions of this without labeling it philosophical. Car insurance, emergency funds, duplicate chargers in the backpack, rehearsals for a big speech in a noisy room so you can tolerate surprises. The stance is realism, not pessimism. I hope for the best. I practice for the rest. Silence belongs in this toolkit. Our culture incentivizes instant takes, yet most of the trouble we get into would vanish if we delayed 30 seconds before replying. Silence isn't emptiness. It's a buffer that lets the prefrontal cortex catch up to the amygdala. In a tense meeting, 3 beats of quiet give you the option to ask a clarifying question rather than deliver a clever line you'll regret. With kids, a pause keeps you from matching volume with volume. Online, stepping away denies an outrage cycle your attention. This isn't repression, it's self-respect. You get to choose when your voice adds value. You don't owe the world your nervous system on demand. Solitude is the long form of that silence. If your schedule never includes time, without voices, no podcasts on a walk, no screen at lunch, no music in the shower you never hear the quieter parts of, your own mind. That quiet is where you can run a diagnostic. What am I chasing that I don't control? Where did I act out of fear of disapproval? What small, controllable act today would shrink that? Fear next time? 20 minutes with a notebook can rescue an entire week. Write down the 3 spheres: what I control, what I influence, what I don't. Move tasks ruthlessly into the first 2. Stop pretending about the third. This is not airy self-help. It's operations. Gratitude rounds the edges off our control compulsion by shifting attention to what is already working. The rush to fix everything blinds us to the ordinary mercies inside a day. A barista remembering your order, a friend forwarding a roll, your legs cooperating on the stairs, your spouse doing a chore you usually handle. Naming these is not sentimental. It widens your aperture so you don't relate to life as a hostile audit. A grateful person still plans, improves, and holds standards. They just don't do it from a posture of deficit panic. That posture matters. When leaders force improvements from scarcity, nothing is ever good enough. Teams hunker down. When leaders acknowledge wins and then ask for the next inch, teams move. Enjoying the journey is the practical consequence of releasing control over specific laurels. In sports, if winning is the only acceptable experience, you will hate 90% of your career because losing, weather, injuries, and slumps are baked into the sport. If you learn to enjoy practices, film study, the slow mastery of fundamentals, the relationships in the locker room, you end up both happier and, paradoxically, more likely to win. In careers, if promotion is the sole source of pride, You will feel small for months or years at a time. If you can take satisfaction in a clean pull request, a clear memo, an honest 1:1, a well-run demo, you build a bank account of morale that interest compounds. Letting go of force returns you to the work itself. The work is where your hands are. The cleanest test of whether you're forcing is physiological. Are you chronically braced, jaw tight, breath shallow, shoulders high? Do you scroll to numb the agitation? Do you rehearse conversations that haven't happened? Your body often knows before your mind admits it. A Stoic adjustment starts in the body. Exhale longer than. You inhale, loosen your grip on the steering wheel, uncross your arms in a meeting, put your phone screen down on the table during dinner, let silence stretch for 2 beats longer than comfort. And ask one curious question. These micro moves don't fix the market or the weather, but they return you to the controls that matter. From there, better choices become available. Across domains, the thread is identical. Clarify what is yours, commit to it fully, and let outcomes be outcomes. You still plan, but you plan with a pencil, not a chisel. You still care, but you refuse to make your nervous system hostage to results. You still strive, but you trade drama for discipline. The illusion that you can engineer other people's approvals, smooth out randomness, and guarantee a particular future is comforting until the bill comes due. Stoicism tears up that counterfeit contract and offers a saner one. You can always own your conduct. That promise is smaller than control and far more powerful. It's the difference between trying to shove the river and learning to steer a boat. The river doesn't care. The boat will get you home. Living fully in the present is one of those ideas that everyone nods along to, but very few people truly practice. Most of us spend the majority of our waking hours either replaying the past or rehearsing the future. We replay conversations we wish we'd handled differently, rehash mistakes, and dwell on regrets. Or we rehearse imaginary scenarios, what we'll say in the next meeting, how our vacation will go, what might happen if we lose our job or our partner leaves. This constant mental time travel robs us of the only moment that is actually real, this one, right now. The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius put it starkly, do not act as if you were going to live 10,000 years. Death hangs over you. While you live, while it is in your power, be good. His point wasn't morbid, it was clarifying. The future is a probability, not a promise. The past is fixed and gone. The present is the only place we can think, choose, and act. In American culture, we are trained from childhood to chase the next thing. The next grade, the next trophy, the next college, the next job title, the next house. Hustle culture magnifies this into a lifestyle. If you're not grinding, you're falling behind. Even our leisure gets colonized by this forward tilt. We don't just cook dinner, we document it for Instagram. We don't just run, we chase PRs and Stravakudos. There's nothing wrong with ambition, but when our attention is always pointed at the horizon, we miss the ground under our feet. A parent who is always focused on providing for their kids, but never actually sits and plays with them has traded presence for provision. A worker who is always building their network, but never deeply connects with a colleague has mistaken contact for community. To live fully in the present doesn't mean ignoring the future or failing. To learn from the past, it means bringing your full attention to the task, conversation, or experience in front of you. If you're eating lunch, taste it. If you're in a meeting, listen instead of half-drafting emails in your head. If you're walking your dog, notice the sky, the rhythm of your steps, the goofy joy of the animal beside you. These small acts are deceptively powerful. Neuroscience backs this up. When we pay full attention to sensory input, we quiet the brain's default mode network, the circuitry that spins stories about self and time. Quieting that network lowers anxiety and boosts well-being. In practice, this looks like single tasking. Put the phone down when someone is talking. Close extra browser tabs. Set a timer for 10 minutes and do just one thing. These are humble, unsexy moves, but they rewire your experience of life. A personal example. A few years ago, I was so obsessed with preparing for a big presentation that I mentally skipped through every family dinner that week. My body was at the table, but my mind was on slide 7. The presentation went fine, but the week was gone. That was a wake-up call. Now, I build pauses into my day. 5 deep breaths before opening my laptop. A full inhale of my morning coffee's aroma before taking the first sip. A walk around the block without headphones. These rituals anchor me in now. The present moment is always fleeting, always available, and always enough if we meet it fully. Closely tied to living in the present is the practice of mindfulness. Mindfulness has become a buzzword, but at its core, it's simply paying attention to your thoughts, emotions, and sensations without judgment. It's noticing what's happening inside and around you instead of getting lost in reaction. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus captured this when he said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." We can't control every external event, but we can train our mind to notice its own patterns and choose a response. In modern terms, mindfulness is like adding a delay between the match and the fuse. You still feel anger, fear, excitement, but you don't automatically act on them. Mindfulness is especially relevant in a culture of constant distraction. Our phones ping, our feeds scroll, our workdays fragment into 1,000 microtasks. This fragmentation scatters our attention and spikes our stress. Practicing mindfulness is like doing reps in the mental gym. You sit quietly, focus on your breath, and when your mind wanders, it will 100 times. You gently bring it back. That's 1 rep. Over time, this builds a muscle of awareness you can use in daily life. When someone cuts you off in traffic, you notice the surge of anger without becoming it. When your boss criticizes your project, you notice the flush of shame and the urge to defend yourself. And you choose to breathe before replying. The event doesn't change, but your relationship too. It does. Many Americans get turned off by the aesthetic trappings of mindfulness incense, gongs, lotus positions. You don't need any of that. You can practice in a parked car, at your desk, or in line at the grocery store. One simple exercise. Notice 3 things you can see, 3 you can hear, and 3 you can feel. That sensory scan brings you out of mental stories and into embodied presence. Another. Before you open your email, pause to name your current emotion. I feel rushed. I feel curious. Naming it gives you a sliver of space. Over time, this habit can change your baseline. Instead of ping-ponging between stressors, you move through the day with more steadiness. I once coached a young software engineer who was burning out. He'd wake up, check Slack before even getting out of bed, juggle tasks all day, doom scroll at night, and collapse in a shallow sleep. His mind never stopped spinning. I taught him a 2-minute mindfulness drill. Before starting work, sit, close your eyes, and breathe. Notice thoughts like, "I'm already behind," without chasing them. Return to the breath. After a week, he reported feeling ridiculous doing it and calmer. After a month, he noticed he was catching himself before snapping at coworkers. After 3 months, his sleep improved. The code quality followed. Mindfulness didn't magically fix his workload, but it changed his relationship to it. Acceptance flows naturally from mindfulness. Once you can see your internal weather clearly, you can stop fighting the external weather quite so much. Stoic acceptance doesn't mean liking everything that happens. It means acknowledging reality as it is, rather than how you wish it were, and then acting effectively from there. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." The modern equivalent might be the serenity prayer. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. That wisdom is the heart of acceptance. Americans often confuse acceptance with resignation. They fear that if they stop railing against a problem, they'll become passive. In truth, acceptance is the opposite of passivity. It's seeing clearly so you can act where action matters. Imagine 2 people facing a canceled flight. One fumes, yells at the gate agent, tweets angrily. The other acknowledges the fact, the flight is canceled. They open their phone, rebook on a later flight, text their ride, and settle in with a book. Only one of these people is effective, and it's the one who accepted reality quickly. The storm doesn't care about your anger. The gate agent doesn't control the weather. Your choice is suffering or adaptation. In relationships, acceptance plays out daily. You can't control your partner's mood, your kid's temperament, or your coworker's personality. You can set boundaries, communicate clearly, and decide how you'll show up. Forcing change in another person usually breeds resistance. Accepting them as they are doesn't mean tolerating harm. It means dropping the fantasy that you can rewire their brain by sheer willpower. This clarity frees up energy. Instead of stewing about why your colleague is messy, you calmly close their tabs after the meeting and move on. Instead of trying to make your spouse like hiking, you invite them once and then plan solo hikes with friends. Your peace stops depending on their compliance. In health, acceptance is critical. You can influence your habits, but you can't guarantee outcomes. A runner can train smart and still sprain an ankle. A dieter can eat well and still face genetic cholesterol issues. Without acceptance, these realities feel like personal failures. With acceptance, they're just data points. You adjust, rehab, change meds, keep going. The Stoics practiced a form of negative visualization, imagining losses in advance. Not to be morbid, but to inoculate against shock. If you've already pictured a flight delay, a rejection letter, a rainy wedding day, you meet them with equanimity when they arrive. This practice makes acceptance easier because it's rehearsed. A story that illustrates this. A friend of mine trained for months to run the Boston Marathon. The night before the race, a freak heat wave rolled in. Many runners were devastated. My friend was disappointed too, but she remembered her Stoic training. The weather isn't mine to control, she said. My pace, my hydration, my attitude, that's mine. She adjusted her goals, ran slower, drank more water, and crossed the finish line smiling. Others dropped out, not just from heat, but from the weight of unmet expectations. Her acceptance didn't erase the heat. It erased the extra suffering. Finally, to live fully and peacefully, we must learn to let go of the past. This might be the hardest skill of all. Humans have sticky minds. We cling to old wounds, replay embarrassing moments, and hold grudges like trophies. This backward focus steals energy from the present. Marcus Aurelius advised, confine yourself to the present. The past is like a movie you've already seen. Watching it again doesn't change the ending. It just keeps you from living your own sequel. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting or condoning harm. It means releasing your claim that the past should have been different. Think of it like closing a browser tab. You don't delete the internet. You just stop staring at that page. Forgiveness is one form of letting go. It's not saying what you did was okay. It's saying, I refuse to keep drinking this poison. Even self-forgiveness fits here. Many Americans carry silent shame about youthful mistakes, career missteps, or failed relationships. Beating yourself up doesn't rewrite history. It just doubles the damage. A constructive move is to extract the lesson and set down the rest. If you broke trust, learn honesty. If you wasted money, learn budgeting. Then stop narrating yourself as the villain forever. One practical exercise. Write a letter you won't send. Describe the hurt, the anger, the regret. Be raw. Then, at the end, write, I release this. I choose to carry only what helps me grow. Burn or shred the letter. The ritual marks the shift. Another, when a painful memory surfaces, name 3 ways you're different now. Back then, I didn't know how to communicate. Now I do. This reframes the past as training, not a trap. A real-world example. A man I knew lost a business partnership in a bitter dispute. For years, he brought up the betrayal at every dinner party, every holiday. His bitterness alienated friends and froze his career. One day, his daughter said, Dad, I've never met the guy who hurt you, but he's at our table every night. That jolted him awake. He sought therapy, wrote unsent letters, and slowly stopped rehearsing the old story. His business didn't magically revive, but his relationships did. By letting go, he re-entered the present. All four of these practices presence. Mindfulness, acceptance, and release feed each other. Living fully in the present gives you raw material for mindfulness. Mindfulness gives you the clarity to practice acceptance. Acceptance creates the emotional space to let go of the past. Letting go clears the deck for deeper presence. Together, they form a foundation of inner calm that external chaos can't easily shake. This foundation doesn't make life easy. It makes you resilient. You still face traffic jams, layoffs, arguments, illnesses, but you face them as an adult, not a hostage. You stop wasting energy on imaginary battles and start directing it where it counts, showing up right now as the person you choose to be. That choice, repeated moment by moment, is the quiet revolution at the heart of Stoic philosophy. It's not dramatic. No one gives you a medal for it. But over years, it transforms everything. Everything changes. That simple truth sits at the core of Stoic philosophy and at the heart of almost every spiritual tradition. But most of us live as if it weren't true. We cling to routines, relationships, jobs, health, and even our own identities as if they will remain stable forever. Deep down, we know they won't, but we push that knowledge away because it feels uncomfortable. The Stoics refused to look away. They taught that impermanence isn't just a fact of life, it's a guide for how to live. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." Those words aren't meant to frighten us. They're meant to focus us. When you truly absorb the reality that everything you love, including yourself, is temporary, it changes your priorities. You stop wasting so much energy fighting change and start savoring what you have while you have it. In modern life, impermanence shows up everywhere. A job that felt secure disappears after a corporate merger. A friend moves across the country. A body that was once strong and agile gets injured or ages. Even technology illustrates this truth. The shiny new phone you were so excited about last year is now outdated. Its software no longer supported. In American culture, especially, there's a deep denial of impermanence. We worship youth, growth, expansion. We act as if more is always better and forever is always possible. Think of the way companies are described. Scaling up, going public, hockey stick growth. Or think about the anti-aging industry, selling creams and procedures to freeze time. There's nothing wrong with caring for your skin or your business, but when the underlying assumption is that decay is a failure, we set ourselves up for endless anxiety. Stoicism invites a different relationship with change. Instead of pretending things will last forever, we acknowledge their temporary nature and let that awareness deepen our gratitude. Imagine you're at a concert. You know the music will end, so you listen more closely, soak up each note. Life is like that. The fact that your kids will grow up, your parents will grow old, your relationships will evolve, this isn't a tragedy to be resisted. It's what makes those moments précieux. If you knew you'd live the same day on repeat forever, like in the movie Groundhog Day, the sweetness would fade. Impermanence gives life its flavor. One area where impermanence hits especially hard is relationships. Many people expect their friendships, romantic partnerships, or family dynamics to stay fixed. When they inevitably shift through breakups, death, distance, or simply changing interests, we experience intense suffering. Part of that suffering comes not from the loss itself, but from our belief that it wasn't supposed to happen. The Stoics remind us that relationships, like all things, are transient. This doesn't mean we love people less. It means we love them more consciously. When you accept that your time with someone is finite, you show up fully. You don't take them for granted. You say, "I love you," today, instead of waiting for a perfect moment. You forgive small annoyances because you know, someday, you'll wish for even those. A vivid example of this is parenting. In America, there's a saying, "The days are long, but the years are short." Parents of young children often feel exhausted by the daily grind, diapers, tantrums, sleepless nights. It's easy to wish those hard stages away. But when you understand impermanence, you realize that even the messy moments are temporary. The toddler who clings to you now will someday barely have time to text you back. The teenager slamming doors today will eventually move out and leave the house quiet. When parents hold this truth, they complain less and cherish more. They still get tired, but they also savor the fleeting sweetness of each stage. Impermanence also plays out in careers. Many people tie their identity tightly to a particular role or company. When layoffs happen or industries evolve, they feel not just unemployed but erased. The Stoic approach is to see every job as a chapter, not the whole story. You do your work with excellence while you have it, but you don't confuse it with your self-worth. Consider the countless workers who built their lives around companies like Kodak or Blockbuster. When technology shifted, those companies shrank or vanished. The workers who had cultivated flexibility skills, networks, a sense of purpose beyond their title adapted more easily. The ones who clung to the idea of permanence suffered deeply. In today's gig economy, this lesson is even more urgent. Your career will almost certainly involve pivots. If you treat each phase as temporary and keep learning, you can ride the waves instead of being crushed by them. Impermanence isn't just about loss, it's also about growth. You're not the same person you were 5 years ago. Your beliefs, habits, and tastes have evolved. Sometimes we forget this and trap ourselves in old narratives. Maybe you failed at a business venture once, and now label yourself bad at entrepreneurship. Maybe you were shy in high school and still think of yourself as awkward, even though you've built confidence as an adult. When you embrace impermanence, you see that you're always in motion. The self is a process, not a fixed object. This can be liberating. You don't have to stay stuck in old versions of yourself. You can shed outdated identities like a snake sheds skin. One of the most practical ways to live with impermanence is to simplify your needs. Epictetus, a former slave who became one of the great Stoic teachers, said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." When we tie our happiness to owning and maintaining a growing pile of stuff, we increase our exposure to loss. The more we accumulate, the more we fear losing it. Think about the stress of a homeowner with a giant house full of fragile antiques versus someone in a modest apartment with a few well-loved items. When a storm hits, who suffers more? Minimalism isn't about deprivation. It's about reducing the number of external things that can disrupt your peace. In the context of impermanence, it's a strategy for resilience. American culture often equates success with accumulation. Bigger houses, more clothes, newer cars. Social media intensifies this by turning consumption into performance. You're not just buying sneakers, you're posting them to Instagram for validation. But every physical object will eventually wear out, get lost, or become unfashionable. When you understand impermanence, you can enjoy things without worshiping them. You can appreciate a nice meal or a new gadget while remembering that their pleasure is temporary. This perspective makes gratitude easier and greed less urgent. You stop chasing the impossible goal of permanent satisfaction through external means. Consider how this plays out in technology. 10 years ago, people were obsessed with BlackBerries. Then iPhones took over. Now, even iPhones feel disposable as new models appear annually. If your happiness depends on always having the latest device, you'll never rest. But if you see your phone as a tool, not a trophy, you can upgrade when needed without tying your identity to it. This mindset applies to all possessions. Use them well. Let them go lightly when their time is done. Impermanence also affects how we handle grief. Losing someone you love is one of the hardest experiences humans face. Stoicism doesn't ask you to suppress your grief. It asks you to remember that death is part of life's natural cycle. Marcus Aurelius wrote often about his awareness that everyone he loved would eventually die, including himself. This awareness didn't make him cold, it made him tender. He urged himself to treat people kindly now, because tomorrow isn't guaranteed. In American culture, we often avoid talking about death. We say someone passed away instead of died. We rush to move on from mourning. But grief is a natural response to impermanence. The Stoic difference is that we grieve without surprise. We don't add shock to sorrow by pretending loss was impossible. A helpful practice here is negative visualization. Spend a few minutes imagining the absence of something you value: your morning coffee, your favorite park, your partner's laughter. This isn't to depress you, it's to heighten appreciation. When you open your eyes, those things feel more vivid. Athletes do this intuitively when they visualize games before they happen. Stoics apply it to daily life. By rehearsing impermanence in your mind, you become more resilient when real change occurs. You also become more grateful in the present. An example: a woman I know sets an alarm on her phone once a week. When it goes off, she pauses and imagines her life. Without one specific thing, a friend, a pet, a skill. For 5 minutes, she sits with that absence. Then she sends a thank you text, plays with the dog, or practices the skill with fresh joy. This ritual keeps her connected to reality. Nothing is forever, so appreciate it now. Impermanence can even improve how we approach conflict. When you're angry at someone, it feels like the feeling will last forever. But emotions, like weather, are temporary. If you can remember this in the heat of the moment, you're less likely to say something you'll regret. The next time you're furious, tell yourself, this will pass. Breathe. Wait an hour before sending that email or making that post. Often, by the time you return, the storm has already begun to fade. This is not repression. It's perspective. You recognize that both the relationship and the anger are in flux. You act with the long view in mind. In the realm of health, impermanence shows up as the body's constant change. 1 year you're running marathons. The next you're rehabbing a knee injury. You might lose weight, gain it back, then lose it again. This can be frustrating if you expect linear progress. The Stoic approach is to accept the body's fluctuations as natural. You still care for it, you exercise, eat well, get checkups, but you don't hinge your self-worth on its performance. American diet culture is built on denying impermanence. It promises forever results if you just buy this program or supplement. The truth is bodies age, metabolisms shift. What worked at 25 might not work at 45. When you embrace impermanence, you adapt gracefully. You celebrate what your body can do today instead of mourning what it used to do. Impermanence also reshapes how we think about time itself. In a culture obsessed with productivity, time is treated like a commodity to be maximized. We talk about time management and time hacks as if hours were dollars. But time isn't money. You can't save it or earn more of it. You can only spend it moment by moment. Understanding impermanence helps you spend it wisely. When you truly grasp that your days are finite, you stop wasting them on trivialities. You say no to commitments that drain you. You prioritize relationships and experiences over status symbols. You choose quality over quantity. One practical tool is the memento mori reminder, a visual or verbal cue of mortality. Some people wear a ring engraved with a skull. Others keep a quote on their desk. The point isn't to be morbid, it's to keep perspective. Steve Jobs famously said that remembering he would die soon was the most important tool he ever encountered for making big choices. It stripped away external expectations and made clear what mattered. This is the positive power of impermanence. When you know time is short, you live with urgency and presence. A friend of mine uses a calendar with only 52 boxes, one for each week of the year. Each Sunday, he colors in a box. Seeing the year visually shrink keeps him focused. If he's tempted to waste a weekend scrolling social media, he glances at the calendar and asks, "Is this how I want to spend one of my boxes?" This simple practice turns an abstract concept into a tangible motivator. Impermanence can be frightening, but it's also freeing. If nothing lasts, you don't have to cling so tightly. You can take risks, try new things, forgive mistakes. A failed project doesn't define you because it, too, will pass. A painful breakup isn't the end of your story. It's a plot twist. Even success is temporary, which is oddly comforting. You don't have to protect it forever. You just have to enjoy it while it's here and then move on to the next chapter. Think of a championship. Sports team. They raise the trophy, celebrate, and then the next season begins. Yesterday's win doesn't guarantee tomorrow's, and that's okay. The game continues. For Americans steeped in a forever mindset, this can be a radical shift. Advertisers sell lifetime guarantees. Weddings are built around vows of forever. Retirement plans promise stability decades in advance. While it's natural to hope for lasting security, overinvestment in permanence creates brittleness. When change inevitably comes, we shatter. The Stoic path builds flexibility instead. You still plan for the future, but you hold those plans lightly. You still love deeply, but you remember that love's form may evolve. You still work hard, but you don't confuse your resume with your soul. Practicing impermanence in daily life doesn't require dramatic rituals. Start small. Each morning, notice one thing that's different from yesterday. The light in the sky, a flower blooming, a wrinkle on your hand. This trains your mind to see change as natural, not threatening. When something breaks a dish, a foam case pause before replacing it. Acknowledge its life cycle. Thank it for its service, even silently. When you feel resistance to change, breathe and name it. This is me wishing things could stay the same. Then ask, what's my next best step in reality? Another practice is intentional decluttering. Go through a drawer or closet and release items you no longer use. As you do, reflect on the seasons they represent. That jacket was perfect for college winters. Those shoes were great for a job you've outgrown. Thank them, then let them go. This physical act reinforces the truth that not everything is meant to stay. It also makes space for new possibilities. Many people find that simplifying their physical environment reduces mental clutter too. In relationships, practice impermanence by regularly expressing appreciation. Don't assume people know how you feel. Tell them. Write a note. Make a call. If someone drifts away, bless the connection you had instead of clinging in resentment. Friendships have natural tides. By accepting this, you can welcome people when they flow in and release them when they flow out. At work, impermanence shows up in projects and teams. The product you're building today might be obsolete next year. The team you love might reorganize. Instead of resisting, focus on transferable skills, communication, problem-solving, resilience. These endure even as contexts change. When a project ends, celebrate what you learned, then pivot. This mindset keeps you adaptable in a volatile economy. Ultimately, impermanence is not a bug in the system. It's the system. Without change, there would be no growth, no seasons, no life. The Stoics didn't just tolerate impermanence, they revered it. By aligning yourself with this reality, you reduce unnecessary suffering. You still feel sadness when things end, but you don't add outrage to it. You still strive for excellence, but you release the illusion of control. You become like a skilled surfer. You can't stop the waves, but you can ride them with grace. Impermanence reminds us that every moment matters precisely because it won't last. That truth can sound heavy, but it's actually a profound gift. It calls you to wake up. Hug your loved ones today, not tomorrow. Take the trip, write the book, start the conversation. Don't postpone joy waiting for a forever that will never come. Life's beauty lies in its transience. When you accept that, you stop clinging and start living. Silence is one of the most underrated forces in the modern world. In a culture that rewards speed, hot takes, and constant noise, the ability to pause before speaking or reacting feels almost revolutionary. People often mistake silence for weakness, as if having the loudest voice automatically makes you the strongest in the room. But anyone who has been in a heated argument knows that silence can hold more power than words ever could. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus famously said, "Nature gave us one tongue and two ears so that we could listen twice as much as we speak." That's not just a witty line. It's a blueprint for emotional mastery. When you pause before reacting, you give yourself time to think clearly, and you deny chaos the fuel it needs to grow. In everyday life, we see how quickly things escalate when silence is absent. Imagine a tense workplace meeting. Someone criticizes your idea in a dismissive tone. The automatic reaction is to defend yourself immediately, to fire back with equal sharpness. This creates a chain reaction defensiveness breeds. Defensiveness, voices rise, and soon the actual issue is lost in the noise. Now imagine the same situation, but this time you pause. You take a breath, allow a beat of silence to hang in the room, and then respond calmly. I hear your concern. Can you tell me more about what you think might not work? That single moment of silence resets the entire dynamic. Instead of a battle, you've opened space for dialogue. The other person may even soften, realizing you're not there to fight, but to solve a problem together. This principle applies far beyond work. In relationships, silence can be a powerful tool for de-escalation. Couples often fall into patterns where small disagreements spiral into full-blown fights because neither partner pauses. Picture a couple arguing about household chores. Partner A says, "You never help with the dishes." Partner B, feeling attacked, shoots back, "Well, you never appreciate what I do." The volume rises, and soon they're dredging up grievances from 5 years ago. If even one of them could insert a moment of silence, taking a breath, counting to 3, the entire argument could shift. That pause allows the emotional temperature to drop and makes room for empathy. It's not about winning, it's about staying connected. Social media has made this even harder. Platforms like Twitter, now X, are engineered to reward instant reactions. Outrage gets clicks. The faster and angrier your response, the more attention you receive. This trains us to treat every disagreement like a war to be won in public view. The problem is that what works online often poisons our offline lives. The habit of reacting instantly bleeds into our relationships, our workplaces, even our self-talk. Stoic wisdom offers a counterweight, the discipline of delayed response. You don't have to have an opinion on everything right away. You don't have to clap back the second you feel triggered. By choosing silence, you reclaim your power from algorithms and other people's agendas. There's also a deeper kind of silence, the silence inside your own mind. Most of us walk around with a constant internal monologue, a stream of judgments, worries, and to-do lists. This mental noise can be exhausting. Stoics practice techniques to quiet the mind, such as journaling or meditative reflection. In modern terms, mindfulness and meditation serve the same purpose. When you sit in literal silence, you begin to notice how loud your thoughts have been all along. At first, this can be uncomfortable. You may realize how much of your inner chatter is repetitive or negative. But with practice, that awareness creates space. You learn that you are not your thoughts. You are the observer of your thoughts. This perspective gives you freedom. Instead of being yanked around by every passing emotion, you can choose which ones to engage. Consider the difference between a person who reacts impulsively and one who is trained in silence. In traffic, someone cuts them off. The reactive person immediately honks, yells, maybe even tailgates in anger. Their whole body floods with cortisol, and the stress lingers long after the incident. The silent person feels the same surge of adrenaline but pauses. They notice the feeling, take a deep breath, and let the moment pass without retaliation. The external event is identical, but the internal experience is radically different. Over time, these small choices shape character. Silence becomes not just a tactic, but a way of being. Silence also has a profound impact on how others perceive you. In negotiations, for instance, skilled communicators use silence strategically. After making an offer, they stop talking. The other party, uncomfortable with the gap, often fills it by revealing information or even negotiating against themselves. In sales, the same principle applies. A good salesperson asks a question and then shuts up, listening fully instead of rushing to pitch. In leadership, silence can convey calm authority. When a manager listens more than they speak, employees feel heard and respected. Conversely, Leaders who dominate every conversation with their own voice create fear and disengagement. American culture tends to value extroversion and quick wit. From political debates to reality TV, the loudest, fastest talker often gets the spotlight. But real influence often flows to the person who speaks less and listens more. Think of figures like Fred Rogers or Barack Obama. Their deliberate pacing and thoughtful pauses gave their words extra weight. Compare that to someone who fills every silence with chatter. Their message gets diluted. In a noisy world, silence is memorable. However, silence alone isn't enough. It must be paired with solitude, the deliberate choice to be alone with your own thoughts. This is increasingly rare. We live in a time of constant connection. Smartphones ensure that we are never truly alone. Even when we're physically by ourselves, we fill the space with podcasts, texts, scrolling feeds. Many people go years without a single hour of true solitude. This has consequences. Without solitude, we lose touch with our inner compass. We become reactive to external inputs, constantly chasing the next notification or headline. The Stoics saw solitude as essential for self-mastery. Marcus Aurelius wrote about retreating into himself for clarity, like a general retreating to high ground to survey the battlefield. This wasn't about escaping the world permanently. It was about returning to it with greater wisdom. Modern psychologists echo this insight. Research shows that time alone boosts creativity, reduces stress, and improves emotional regulation. It gives the brain a chance to process experiences and integrate learning. Without it, we stay stuck in surface-level thinking, bouncing from stimulus to stimulus. Many Americans fear solitude because they conflate it with loneliness. Loneliness is painful disconnection. Solitude is chosen connection with oneself. The difference lies in intention. You could be lonely in a crowded room or content on a solo hike. Practicing solitude builds the capacity to be alone without feeling abandoned. It's like strengthening a muscle. At first, sitting quietly with your thoughts may feel awkward or even scary. You might confront feelings you've been avoiding, but over time, it becomes nourishing. You discover that your own company can be enough. Digital detox is a practical gateway to solitude. Our devices are designed to hijack attention. Every ping triggers a dopamine hit, reinforcing the habit of constant checking. To reclaim solitude, you must create boundaries. Start small. Leave your phone in another room during meals. Take a walk without headphones. Schedule one tech-free hour before bed. These simple practices reveal how addicted you've been to external noise. At first, you may feel restless, like a smoker craving a cigarette. That discomfort is a sign of growth. On the other side of it lies a deeper calm. A powerful example comes from a friend who felt perpetually burned out. She worked in marketing, a field notorious for 24/7 communication. Emails, Slack messages, and social media never stopped. She realized she hadn't been alone with her thoughts in years. So she started a Sunday ritual. 3 hours in a local park with no phone, no book, no agenda. At first, she hated it. She counted the minutes, anxious to get back to her notifications. But after a month, something shifted. Ideas started bubbling up, creative solutions to work problems, insights about her relationships. Her anxiety decreased. That simple act of solitude became a cornerstone of her well-being. Solitude also strengthens relationships. It may sound paradoxical, but spending time alone makes you a better partner, friend, or parent. When you know yourself, you bring clarity to interactions. You're less likely to project unresolved issues onto others. Without solitude, we risk becoming emotionally codependent, expecting others to fill voids we haven't explored ourselves. In contrast, a person who has cultivated solitude can engage from a place of wholeness. They choose connection rather than clinging to it. In creative fields, solitude is indispensable. Writers, artists, and entrepreneurs need stretches of uninterrupted time to incubate ideas. Many breakthroughs happen not in brainstorming sessions, but in quiet moments of reflection. Think of J.K. Rowling conceiving Harry Potter on a delayed train, or Steve Jobs taking long walks to think. Through product designs, these aren't accidents. The brain needs space to make novel connections. If every moment is filled with input, there's no room for original thought to emerge. Parents can model healthy solitude for their kids. In a world of constant entertainment, children rarely experience boredom. Yet boredom is fertile ground for imagination. When a child says, "I'm bored," and the parent immediately hands them a tablet, they lose the chance to invent games, stories, or projects. Families can set aside quiet time where everyone reads, draws, or daydreams without screens. This teaches kids that solitude is not scary, it's a skill. The intersection of silence and solitude is where real transformation happens. Silence is external restraint. Solitude is internal exploration. Together, they create a feedback loop. Time alone helps you value pauses in conversation. Pausing in conversation helps you carve out more time alone. For example, someone who meditates daily finds it easier to pause before reacting in a heated moment. Conversely, someone who practices deliberate silence in meetings might feel inspired to spend a weekend hiking. Solo, deepening their relationship with themselves. Consider the modern epidemic of burnout. Many people live in a constant state of fight or flight, juggling work, family, and social obligations. They scroll their phones late into the night, never giving their nervous system a break. Burnout isn't just about too much work. It's about too little rest. True rest isn't just sleeping or binge-watching TV. It's conscious silence and solitude. It's the kind of rest where you return to your life with renewed clarity. Without this, even vacations can feel exhausting. How many people return from a trip more tired than when they left because they never actually unplugged? A practical exercise. Once a week, schedule a silence block. This could be 30 minutes in a quiet room, a walk in nature, or sitting in a park. No phone, no talking, no agenda. Just notice what arises. At first, your mind will race. That's normal. Over time, you'll begin to hear subtler signals. Insights about your goals, intuition about relationships, creative sparks. Think of it like tuning a radio. At first, they're static. Then, slowly, a clear signal emerges. Silence can also be a boundary tool. In toxic situations, saying nothing can be more powerful than arguing. If someone tries to provoke you, refusing to engage denies them control. This isn't passive-aggressive. It's self-protection. For instance, when dealing with a narcissistic boss, responding with calm silence can prevent escalation. You can serve your energy for actions that matter, like documenting incidents or planning an exit strategy. Silence becomes a shield. However, it's important to distinguish healthy silence from avoidance. Silence used to dodge necessary conversations can create distance and mistrust. The key is intention. Are you pausing to gain clarity, or are you hiding from truth? Stoic silence is active. It's a choice to speak only when your words will add value. It's the difference between holding back a cruel comment and withholding essential information. One builds trust, the other erodes it. In our hyper-connected era, solitude and silence are forms of rebellion. When you step away from constant noise, you reclaim sovereignty over your attention. This has ripple effects. You become less reactive to news cycles, marketing campaigns, and peer pressure. You stop being a pawn in other people's games. This doesn't mean withdrawing completely. It means engaging on your own terms. Like Marcus Aurelius retreating inward, you emerge stronger, ready to face the world with equanimity. The benefits are tangible. Studies show that people who regularly practice mindfulness and solitude have lower blood pressure, stronger immune systems, and better problem-solving skills. Companies are beginning to recognize this. Some forward-thinking workplaces offer quiet rooms or encourage device-free breaks. These aren't perks. They're investments in sustainable productivity. When employees have space to think, they make better decisions and burn out less quickly. Silence and solitude also cultivate humility. When you step back from constant performing, you remember that you are not the center of the universe. This perspective can be grounding. In the silence of a forest or a meditation hall, your ego's drama shrink. You see yourself as part of a larger whole. This doesn't diminish you, it liberates you. You can take your work seriously without taking yourself too seriously. In a noisy world, silence and solitude are radical acts of self-care. They require courage. It's easier to stay busy, to keep scrolling, to fill every gap with chatter. But easy isn't the same as healthy. The Stoic path challenges us to do the harder thing, to pause, to listen, to be alone. In that space, we discover strength we didn't know we had. We realize that stillness isn't emptiness. It's fullness. It's the fertile ground where wisdom grows, where we stop reacting and start choosing. And from that place, when we do speak or act, our words and deeds carry a weight that noise never could. Life often feels like a race, especially in a culture that glorifies achievement, competition, and speed. From childhood, we are conditioned to focus on the next milestone. Get good grades, get into the right college, land a right job, buy a house, raise a family, retire comfortably. These goals are not inherently bad, but when they become the sole focus, we risk missing the only thing that is truly real, the journey itself. Stoic philosophy offers a radical perspective shift. Instead of obsessing over outcomes we can't fully control, we can learn to value the process, the path, and the present moment. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor and one of the great Stoic thinkers, wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." In modern terms, this means happiness is not something we find at the finish line. It's something we cultivate step by step along the way. Think about how this plays out in sports. Many athletes dream of winning championships, breaking records, or getting endorsements. But if their happiness depends solely on victory, they will spend most of their careers miserable. Even the best teams lose games. Injuries happen. Weather disrupts play. A true champion finds joy in practice, in the daily rituals of training, in the subtle improvements that no one else may notice. The late Kobe Bryant famously said he loved the process of getting better even more than the trophies. That love of the grind sustained him through setbacks and made the victories sweeter when they came. For the rest of us, the arena might not be the NBA, but our own workplaces, families, and personal projects. If we can shift our focus from chasing titles or promotions to finding meaning in the work itself, we create a steadier form of fulfillment. Consider someone climbing the corporate ladder. If their only goal is to become CEO, every step along the way feels like a mere obstacle. They burn out, alienate colleagues, and may even reach the top only to find a hollow. Now imagine the same person approaching each role as an opportunity to learn, to mentor others, to solve interesting problems. Even if they never reach the corner office, their days are rich with purpose. This is the essence of enjoying the journey. It doesn't mean giving up on ambition. It means broadening your definition of success to include the small wins, the growth, and the relationships that happen along the way. American culture is particularly vulnerable to what psychologists call the arrival fallacy. We convince ourselves that life will finally be good when we hit a specific target. When we buy that house, lose that weight, land that job. But as soon as we reach the milestone, our brains move the goalpost. We adapt to the new normal and start chasing the next thing. This creates a treadmill of dissatisfaction. The Stoic antidote is to anchor your well-being in things you can directly experience now. Instead of saying, "I'll be happy when," practice saying, "I can be content today by showing up fully to what's in front of me." This shift may sound simple, but it's profoundly countercultural. One practical example is parenting. Parents often dream about their children's future achievements, getting into a good college, landing a stable career. These hopes are natural, but they can create stress and disconnection. If a parent is always focused on what their child will become, they may miss who their child is right now. A father who constantly drills his son for the big game might overlook the joy of just tossing a ball in the yard. A mother who pushes her daughter to practice piano for competitions might forget to simply enjoy the music. By focusing on the present relationship rather than future outcomes, parents create deeper bonds and reduce pressure on both sides. Another area where this lesson applies is creative work. Many writers, musicians, or entrepreneurs fixate on external validation, bestseller lists, viral hits, IPOs. But these results depend on factors beyond their control: market trends, algorithms, luck. When creators tie their worth to these outcomes, they often feel anxious or paralyzed. In contrast, creators who fall in love with the process itself tend to produce better work and enjoy it more. Think of a novelist who delights in crafting sentences, exploring characters, and revising drafts, regardless of whether the book sells millions of copies. Ironically, this intrinsic focus often leads to external success because the work is infused with genuine passion rather than desperation. Enjoying the journey naturally leads to cultivating gratitude. When you slow down enough to notice the steps along the path, you begin to appreciate what you already have. Gratitude shifts your mindset from scarcity to abundance. Instead of obsessing over what's missing, you recognize the value of what's present. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, "He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has." Modern research backs this up. Studies by psychologists like Robert Emmons show that people who regularly practice gratitude experience higher levels of happiness, better health, and stronger relationships. Gratitude literally rewires the brain, training it to notice positives rather than fixating on negatives. In practical terms, cultivating gratitude doesn't require dramatic gestures. It can be as simple as keeping a gratitude journal. Each night, write down 3 things you appreciated that day. They don't have to be monumental. It could be a delicious cup of coffee, a kind word from a coworker, or the sound of rain on the roof. Over time, this practice trains your brain to scan for good moments throughout the day. Some people prefer to express gratitude out loud. They make a habit of telling friends, family, or colleagues, "I appreciate you for..." This not only boosts their own mood but strengthens bonds with others. Gratitude can also be practiced in the moment, especially during challenges. Imagine you're stuck in traffic. The default reaction is frustration, cursing the other drivers, worrying about being late. A gratitude mindset reframes the situation. Maybe the traffic gives you a chance to listen to a podcast you enjoy. Maybe it reminds you to appreciate that you have a car at all when many people don't. This doesn't magically erase the inconvenience, but it changes your relationship to it. The same applies to larger struggles. Losing a job is painful, but gratitude can help you notice the support of friends, the skills you've gained, or the opportunity to pivot to something better. Gratitude doesn't deny suffering, it balances it with perspective. One powerful example comes from a man who survived a serious illness. During treatment, he started writing down one thing each day that he was grateful for. Some days, it was as simple as the nurse who smiled at me, or a sunrise I saw through the hospital window. This practice didn't cure his illness, but it gave him strength to endure. After recovery, he continued the habit, saying it transformed how he saw the world. Gratitude became not just a coping mechanism, but a way of life. American holidays like Thanksgiving highlight gratitude once a year, but the Stoic approach is to weave it into daily living. Instead of saving thanks for November, imagine beginning every morning with a simple ritual. Before checking your phone or to-do list, pause to name 3 things you're glad to have. This sets a tone for the day. Gratitude doesn't have to be performative. It's not about posting #blessed on social media. True gratitude is quiet and personal. It's a deep recognition that life is fragile and fleeting, and every ordinary moment is a gift. Gratitude also acts as an antidote to envy and comparison. Social media has amplified these emotions to unprecedented levels. When you scroll through curated highlight reels of other people's lives, it's easy to feel inadequate. Someone else's vacation, promotion, or new relationship can spark jealousy. Gratitude shifts the focus back to your own path. When you consciously acknowledge what's good in your life, you're less likely to resent others for theirs. This doesn't mean you stop striving. It means you stop measuring your worth by someone else's yardstick. Gratitude creates a stable foundation from which ambition can grow healthily. The final piece of this puzzle is learning not to force life. When you enjoy the journey and practice gratitude, you naturally begin to release the urge to control every outcome. Forcing life is like trying to push a river. You waste energy, create frustration, and often make things worse. The Stoics taught that much of our suffering comes from resisting reality. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This paradox means that obstacles are not enemies to be crushed, but teachers to be engaged. When you stop forcing, you open yourself to unexpected possibilities. Forcing shows up in many forms. It might look like staying in a toxic relationship because you believe you can't fix the other person. It might be micromanaging employees, suffocating their creativity. It might be obsessively checking emails, try to control outcomes that are already set in motion. In each case, the underlying belief is the same. If I just push harder, I can bend reality to my will. The truth is, some things are simply not within our control. The weather, other people's feelings, the stock market, these are outside your jurisdiction. The Stoic path is to focus on what you can control, your actions, your words, your mindset. Letting go of forcing doesn't mean giving up. It means engaging fully with what's yours to influence and releasing attachment to results. Consider a gardener. They can plant seeds, water them, tend the soil, but they cannot command the sun to shine or the rain to fall. If they obsess over those uncontrollable factors, they'll go mad. A wise gardener works diligently and accepts that some harvest will be bountiful and others sparse. Life works the same way. You do your best and allow the universe to handle the rest. One relatable example is dating. Many people approach dating like a project to be managed. Perfect profile, strategic texting, carefully planned dates. While some preparation is useful, over-engineering the process often backfires. The more you try to force chemistry, the more awkward it becomes. Genuine connection arises from presence and authenticity, not scripts. When you release the need to control how someone feels about you, you create space for real intimacy. If it works out, wonderful. If it doesn't, you've still gained clarity and experience. Workplace dynamics offer another example. A manager who micromanages every detail creates stress for themselves and their team. They believe they're ensuring quality, but they actually stifle innovation. When that manager steps back, sets clear goals, and trusts their team, productivity often improves. This doesn't mean abdication of responsibility. It means recognizing that control has limits. You guide the process, but don't strangle it. Forcing often stems from fear. Fear of failure, fear of loss, fear of uncertainty. Gratitude helps counteract this fear. When you appreciate what you already have, you feel less desperate to grip the future tightly. Enjoying the journey also helps, because you stop seeing life as a series of tests you must pass. Instead, you see it as an unfolding story. This mindset shift reduces anxiety. You realize that even setbacks are part of the adventure. A failed business becomes a chapter, not a verdict. A breakup becomes a plot twist, not the end of the book. Nature offers countless metaphors for non-forcing. Think of a river flowing around rocks. It doesn't stop and argue with the obstacles. It moves with grace, finding a new path. Bamboo bends in the wind rather than snapping. Seasons change without drama. Humans uniquely resist this flow. We demand perpetual summer, endless youth, constant growth. Stoic practice invites us back into harmony with natural rhythms. This doesn't mean passivity. Farmers still plant crops. Builders still design cities. but they do so with humility, knowing they are co-creators, not tyrants. One practical way to practice non-forcing is through breath awareness. When you notice yourself tensing up, gripping tightly to an outcome, pause and take a slow, deep breath. This physical reset signals your nervous system to relax. Another technique is journaling. Write down what's bothering you, then divide the list into 2 columns: things you can control and things you can't. Commit to action on the first list and release the second. This simple exercise brings clarity and peace. Letting go can also be practiced socially. The next time you're in a group discussion, resist the urge to dominate or persuade. Listen fully. Speak only when your words add value. Notice how the conversation shifts when you stop trying to steer it. Similarly, in family life, allow loved ones to make their own choices, even when you disagree. Offer support, not control. This models respect and builds trust. Ultimately, enjoying the journey, cultivating gratitude, and not forcing life are deeply interconnected. When you savor the process, you naturally notice more to be grateful for. Gratitude softens your grip, making it easier to release control. As you release control, you create space to enjoy the journey even more. This virtuous cycle leads to resilience. External circumstances will always fluctuate, markets crash, relationships change, bodies age, but your inner orientation remains steady. You stop living like a clenched fist and start living like an open hand. In a culture that equates busyness with worth, this approach is radical. It challenges the narrative that happiness is something to be earned through endless striving. Stoic wisdom reminds us that happiness is available now, in the midst of imperfection. The journey is happening whether you notice it or not. Gratitude helps you notice. Non-forcing helps you flow with it. Together, they create a life of quiet strength. You still have goals, but they no longer define you. You still face challenges, but they no longer crush you. You become like a skilled surfer, riding the waves with balance and grace, knowing that the ocean's movements are beyond your command, yet beautifully navigable. When you live this way, success is no longer a distant destination. It's embedded in each step, each breath, each moment of the unfolding path. Peace of mind, wisdom through change, and flowing with life are 3 parts of one whole. Peace of mind begins with being fully present, practicing mindfulness, accepting what you cannot control, and letting go of old stories. It's the driver who breathes instead of raging in traffic, or the employee who pauses before replying to criticism. This cluster is about reclaiming calm by focusing only on what's truly yours to manage. Wisdom through change comes from understanding impermanence. Jobs, relationships, health, and even identities will shift. When you stop fighting this truth, you adapt with grace. Silence and solitude help here. A pause before speaking cools conflict, and time alone clarifies what you really want. Like a tree that bends in the wind, you stay rooted while circumstances move around you. Flowing with life is the natural outcome. When you enjoy the journey instead of obsessing over results, every day becomes meaningful. Gratitude deepens this by shifting attention from scarcity to abundance. And by not forcing life, you stop trying to push the river. You plant, water, and tend what's yours, then release attachment to outcomes. This makes space for genuine joy and unexpected opportunities. A simple 30-day plan can turn these ideas into habits. Week 1, peace of mind. Each day, 5 minutes of mindful breathing, a quick list of control versus not control, and a 3-second pause before responding in conversation. Week 2, wisdom and change. 2 silent moments a day. With no phone, practice 1 calm reply in a tense situation, and journal 1 thing that changed and how you handled it. Week 3, flow. Write 3 gratitudes nightly. Take 2 silent walks. And single task 1 activity for 10 minutes daily. Week 4, letting go. Pick 1 goal and focus only on input actions you control. Add a deep breath before a routine trigger and reflect nightly. What did I enjoy today? What did I try to force things? If you miss a day, just restart. Over time, these small steps braid together. Calm in the moment, wisdom in transition, and a life that moves with the current instead of fighting it. We've traveled through 3 powerful Stoic lessons today: enjoying the journey, cultivating gratitude, and learning not to force life. These are more than just philosophical ideas. They're practices that can reshape how you experience every single day. Think about it. When you start to truly enjoy the journey, life stops feeling like a series of exams you have to pass. You don't need to wait for some perfect moment in the future to finally be happy. Instead, you find joy in the simple, often overlooked moments: the smell of morning coffee, a heartfelt conversation with a friend, the satisfaction of doing meaningful work. Happiness stops being something you chase and becomes something you live. When you cultivate gratitude, you build a shield against comparison and dissatisfaction. The modern world constantly tries to convince you that you need more and more success, more possessions, more approval. Gratitude breaks that spell. It teaches you to see what's already good and abundant in your life. It grounds you in a sense of enoughness, even as you continue to grow. And finally, when you stop forcing life, you free yourself from the exhausting illusion of control. You still work hard, you still care deeply, but you stop trying to bend the universe to your will. You plant seeds, tend the garden, and let nature take its course. This is where real strength comes from, not from clenching tighter, but from knowing when to hold on and when to let go. As you move forward, remember that these lessons aren't mastered overnight. They're like muscles you build through daily practice. Start small. Pause before reacting. Write down 3 things you're grateful for each night. Notice when you're trying to force an outcome and gently release it. Over time, these tiny shifts add up to a life of profound peace and freedom. If there's one thing I want you to take away from today, it's this: you don't have to wait for life to be perfect to start living fully. Peace is not at the end of the road, it's the road itself. Before you go, take a moment to reflect. Which of these 3 lessons resonated with you the most today? Drop a comment below and share your thoughts. I love hearing your stories and insights. And if this video inspired you, please like it, share it with someone who might need a reminder to slow down and breathe, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future videos filled with wisdom and practical tools. If you'd like to go a step further in supporting this channel, you can also use YouTube's Super Thanks feature to donate directly. Your support allows us to keep creating free, meaningful content for viewers around the world, and every contribution, no matter how small, makes a real difference. As we close, I invite you to take one deep breath and remember, you don't need to fight life to live it. Let go of the forcing, embrace gratitude, and savor every step of the journey. Because this moment right here is where your life is happening, and it's too precious to miss.